Picture this. It is like midnight. Your house is completely, blissfully quiet. Everyone is asleep.
Right.
And your Great Pyrenees is lying near the front door in the dark, just looking like a giant peaceful rug.
Oh, yeah. Totally harmless.
Exactly. But then something happens outside. Maybe
Yeah.
a car door shuts somewhere down the street, or a stray branch scrapes against the fence in the wind, or a dog barks like 3 properties over. The Pyrenees lifts its head. It listens for maybe a fraction of a second, and then,
Problems.
yes, it lets out this booming, wall-shaking, just incredibly deep bark that practically vibrates the floorboards.
It is honestly the kind of sound that jolts you right out of a deep sleep. Your heart is just pounding.
Yeah, and in that moment, from inside your warm bed, that midnight bark feels like pure, unfiltered inconvenience. I mean, you might be staring at the ceiling thinking, like, why is my dog doing this? Are they
Yeah.
just being a jerk? Did they forget every single thing we learned in training class?
Which is such a natural reaction, honestly.
Totally. But today, we're going to completely flip that script. So welcome to this deep dive. We have this really fascinating stack of expert behavioral analyses on the Great Pyrenees today.
It's some incredibly insightful source material.
It really is. And our mission today is to decode the complex mind, the behavior, and the trainability of this majestic breed. We want to help you finally understand how to live in harmony with a dog that was genetically designed to think entirely for itself.
Yeah, because to really understand this breed, we need to completely reframe that midnight moment we just talked about.
Right.
That dog standing at the front door. It isn't confused. It isn't, forgetting its training. And it certainly isn't acting out just to annoy you. What it's actually doing is executing its exact centuries-old genetic programming. Flawlessly, I might add.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. The Great Pyrenees is wired from birth to do 3 specific things: notice a change in the environment, evaluate that change, and announce it.
And that brings us to the core challenge of bringing this specific breed into a modern home. I want you, the listener, to just imagine trying to train an animal that operates less like an eager-to-please employee and much more like an independent contractor who is absolutely convinced they know how to do the job way better than you do.
Exactly. It's a fundamental shift in how we usually think about dog training. I mean, most of the popular training advice out there, the books, the videos, whatever, they all just assume you are working with a dog that is constantly looking to you for direction.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if you look at the most searched questions about this breed, right at the top is always, are they easy to train?
Oh, always.
Yeah, and I love the analogy we can draw here from the sources. If you have a herding breed, or say a golden retriever, it's basically like having an eager intern.
Right, just following you around.
Exactly. They're following you around with a notepad, practically vibrating with excitement, saying, what's next, boss? Should I fetch this? Should I sit? Please tell me what to do.
Oh, 100%.
But a Great Pyrenees, that dog is a seasoned night shift security guard. I mean, they've been on the job for 20 years. They know the perimeter. They are used to sipping their coffee and making their own tactical calls without some manager breathing down their neck.
I love that. That analogy perfectly captures the mechanism of their mindset, because these are incredibly intelligent dogs, genuinely brilliant. But we have to look at how that intelligence was shaped over centuries.
It wasn't about fetching balls.
No, not at all. It wasn't shaped by generations of working side by side with a human handler, tossing a toy, or, giving rapid-fire obedience commands. Their intelligence was forged by generations of living out in the harsh elements with livestock, largely unsupervised by humans.
So they were entirely on their own out there.
Pretty much. If a predator approached the flock at 2 in the morning, the dog couldn't exactly look around for a shepherd and ask for a command. They had to evaluate dangerous situations, weather patterns, and predators entirely on their own, and just make life-or-death tactical decisions.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate for a second here. Let's walk through a real-world scenario. I'm standing in my kitchen. I have a piece of premium cheese in my hand.
The good stuff.
The good stuff, yeah. I look at my Pyrenees and I say, sit. And the dog just looks at me, stares right through me, maybe lets out a heavy sigh, turns around and just walks away.
Very common.
Am I supposed to just accept that it's not being stubborn? Because to a human being, that feels like a direct insult. It feels like pure defiance.
Yeah, it feels like defiance to us because Human society is built on expecting instant compliance. We tell a machine to do something, it does it. But what is actually happening in the dog's brain is this rapid cognitive evaluation.
Like they're weighing their options.
Exactly. Their internal operating system is running a cost-benefit analysis. When you say sit, especially if it's just this repetitive grill in the kitchen that doesn't seem to serve a real purpose in that exact moment, the dog isn't asking, what command did you give me?
Right.
The dog is asking, does this action actually make sense right now?
Right, like, why should I sit for a tiny piece of cheese when I'm currently monitoring the wind patterns at the back door?
Yes, and that's not even a joke. Often what we so quickly label as stubbornness has a very practical environmental explanation if we just pay attention. The dog might be distracted by like micro movement at the very edge of its awareness that you can't even perceive.
Wow. So they're just picking up on way more than we are.
Way more. The sensory input from the environment might be vastly more critical to their guardian brain than your little piece of cheese. Or on a physical level, maybe the dog is hot. Maybe the floor is slippery.
Oh, that makes sense.
Or maybe you're trying to call the dog away from a fence line that it is absolutely convinced needs watching because, I don't know, a delivery driver just pulled up next door. Asking for blind obedience in a moment that actually calls for situational management is just a guaranteed recipe for frustration.
Which means the takeaway for you, if you're listening and living with one of these dogs, is that endless repetition and high-pressure tactics are just going to fail spectacularly. Yeah. Training this breed requires building genuine trust and providing absolute clarity. You have to convince that seasoned independent contractor that your requests are actually worth their time.
Right. If you are a reliable, calm, and consistent partner, they will trust your judgment. But the moment you become forceful or, lose your temper, they simply tune you out. They write you off as an unstable element in their environment.
That is wild. Now, if their primary job is evaluating the environment, we definitely have to talk about how they react to what they find. And that usually means the voice.
Oh boy, the voice.
Yeah, let's talk about the barking. Because if there is one behavior that defines daily life with a Pyrenees, this is it.
Barking is not a bug in this breed's software. It is a core feature. They bark to alert the flock. They bark to warn off potential predators before a physical fight becomes necessary. They bark to communicate across massive mountain distances. And they bark simply to mark their presence.
Like a sonar ping.
Yeah, exactly. It's a sonic fence that says, I am here, do not come near my territory.
And that midnight barking we talked about at the beginning, our sources point out that it has these deep practical historical roots. A massive portion of the original guarding job actually happened after dark.
Because of nocturnal predators.
Right. The shepherds couldn't see the flock in the pitch black, so the dogs had to use their voices to manage threats. So if you're listening to this and hoping that a few basic obedience classes will eventually produce a completely silent Great Pyrenees. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but that is just not a scientifically realistic goal.
No, not at all. The goal shouldn't be silence. The goal is managing the triggers and reducing the unnecessary prolonged barking. You have to teach the dog how to recover quickly after an alert, rather than staying intensely wound up and just, barking at the wind for an hour straight.
And there is this hilarious but incredibly crucial detail in our source material about the actual mechanics of trying to stop the barking.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
It's so good. So picture this. The dog is going off at the front window. The immediate human instinct is to run over and yell, "Quiet, stop barking. Hey, cut it out."
Right, because we want it to stop immediately.
Exactly. But from the dog's perspective, they don't understand English syntax. They just see their human running over, raising their energy, and making a lot of loud, aggressive noise. The dog thinks, awesome. The boss agrees, there's a major threat. We were both barking at the mailman together.
It completely backfires. By shouting, you just become part of the noise. You are validating their assessment that a crisis is occurring.
So what actually works then?
What actually works mechanically is calmly acknowledging the alert. You walk over, look out the window, and use a calm, low voice to let them know you see what they see. Like, thank you, I see it.
Just validating them.
Yeah. And then you reward the exact moment they stop and settle. And practically speaking, you have to manage the environment. Look at your fence lines. What is visible from the yard? How do wildlife and neighbors factor into their visual field?
Sometimes you just have to block the view.
Exactly. Sometimes the absolute most effective training strategy isn't a command at all. It's simply bringing the dog inside during certain high traffic hours rather than trying to completely override centuries of hardwired instinct.
Okay, so we know they are vocal, active guardians. But let's dive into the sharp edge of this instinct. I want to pose an assumption that I think a lot of new owners might make.
Okay, go for it.
Let's say a delivery driver drops a package on the porch, and my Pyrenees stands at the glass door, barking deeply, growling, baring their teeth. I'd assume that's just a good protective instinct, right? Like they are doing their job, guarding the castle.
What's fascinating here is how often well-meaning owners accidentally reinforce incredibly dangerous behavior by making that exact assumption.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because it's a giant guardian breed, there's a strong temptation to think, oh, they're supposed to be fierce, I should encourage this. So the owner might praise the dog for acting aggressive at the fence line, or they might laugh and treat it as cute when the dog growls at a guest walking through the front door.
But the sources are very clear that this is a dangerous misunderstanding of what a guardian dog should be.
It is a profound liability. The protective instinct does not need human reinforcement. I mean, it is already fully baked into their DNA. What that raw instinct needs is structured guidance.
That makes sense.
A well-bred, well-guided Great Pyrenees should be highly capable of calm discernment. They should be able to notice a stranger, assess the situation, see that you are calmly welcoming this person, and then settle down because there is no real threat.
So true protection isn't about being on the attack.
No. True protection is not reactivity. It is not fear. It is not lunging wildly at the end of a leash. And it is definitely not an inability to accept an invited guest into your home. Lunging and fear biting are actually signs of a dog that has lost control of its environment, not a dog that is protecting it.
Which brings us to the absolute golden rule of Pyrenees security. If you take away one thing from this deep dive, make it this. The owner controls the guest list, and the owner controls the door.
Yes.
The dog's job is calm observation, not running the household security on its own independent judgment. If you are seeing lunging, genuine fear, or dangerous reactivity, you do not need a DIY internet fix.
No, you really don't.
You need a qualified professional behaviorist to help you rebuild that trust.
Because a highly reactive 100-pound dog is just a disaster waiting to happen, which is why setting them up for success has to start the very moment you bring them home, specifically with how we approach the concept of socialization.
Yes. If the goal indoors is to help this massive dog achieve calm discernment with guests, we need to completely reimagine how we socialize them. Because the way modern dog culture talks about socialization is honestly universally misunderstood.
Oh, entirely.
Everyone thinks socialization means taking your 8-week-old puppy to a chaotic dog park and forcing them to play with 20 other dogs, or having every single stranger on the street pet them so they learn to love everyone.
Right, and if you try to force a Great Pyrenees to act like a golden retriever social butterfly who wants to greet every stranger with kisses, you are working entirely against their psychological nature.
It's just not who they are.
Exactly. It wouldn't even be true to the breed's historical temperament. For Pyrenees, socialization is not about interaction. It is about calm, positive exposure.
But let me channel the listener's anxiety here for a second, because practically speaking, how on earth do you enforce that? You're out walking a puppy that looks like a giant, adorable, fluffy polar bear.
Good luck.
Right. Strangers and kids are going to swarm you on the sidewalk. They will cross the street just to touch this dog. How do you maintain that neutral exposure when the whole world just wants to aggressively pet your cute puppy?
That is where you have to learn to be a fierce advocate for your dog. You have to step in and physically block people if necessary. You say, "We are in training, please don't touch."
People probably get offended.
They might, but the mechanics of this are crucial. If you constantly allow strangers to crowd and overwhelm this independent guardian breed when they are young, the dog learns that humans are unpredictable, boundary-pushing entities. That early overwhelm directly fuels adult suspicion and reactivity.
Oh, wow. So you're accidentally creating the reactivity.
Yes. You want them to experience a busy street, a delivery truck, a groomer, entirely while remaining emotionally neutral. The goal is to teach the dog's nervous system that when they encounter something unfamiliar, their default response should be thoughtful observation, rather than jumping straight to suspicion or panic.
And that boundary talk translates directly to how they interact with the family unit indoors. Now, the Pyrenees is famous for being deeply affectionate with their families, and they're generally known to be wonderful, patient companions for children. But we need a serious reality check here based on our sources.
We really do.
The physical size alone is a massive risk that just cannot be ignored.
Yeah, a 100-pound adult dog jumping up, even out of pure, joyous affection, is a physical safety hazard for a child. Or a fully grown adult, for that matter. The physics simply aren't in your favor.
So kids in the house need strict, non-negotiable rules. No climbing on the dog like it's a pony, no pulling ears or tails, no bothering the dog while it is eating, and the dog absolutely must have protected rest spaces like a crate or a specific room where it knows it will not be disturbed by anyone.
And beyond basic physical safety, you also have to watch out for the dog's guardian attachment tipping into overprotectiveness toward a specific child in the home.
Which sounds cute in theory, but
It's a huge issue. It's a well-documented phenomenon where the dog decides one child is their flock and they start guarding that child against the parents or against the child's friends coming over to play. It's something you have to actively monitor and manage rather than just assuming it will sort itself out because they quote-unquote love the kids.
okay, so if the goal indoors is calm discernment, what happens to that independent guardian brain when we remove the walls and expose them to the unpredictable open world? The stakes get way higher.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's talk about the physical reality of moving through the world with a giant independent thinker. Leash training isn't just about having a polite dog that looks nice on a walk. For this breed, it is a matter of sheer physical necessity.
Because if an adult Great Pyrenees decides it urgently needs to investigate a fence line or wildlife across the street or another dog and it drops its weight and starts pulling.
Some water skiing.
Exactly. You are going to lose that physical battle. You cannot outmuscle them. Leash training has to start early, fundamentally teaching the dog that a comfortable, loose leash position near you is highly rewarding and that pulling gets them nowhere.
Which brings up the ultimate question every dog owner asks, but it has a very different answer for this breed. If I train my Pyrenees perfectly and we have an incredible bond and they love me more than anything in the world, can they be a reliable off-leash dog?
I'm going to answer that with a powerful, defining quote directly from the source material. Love of family does not cancel the pull of the horizon.
Wow, that hits hard.
It's the honest, unvarnished truth. Let's walk through the mechanics of an off-leash scenario.
Right.
You are in a wide-open field. The dog smells a coyote in the tree line a mile away. You call out, "Come!"
Right.
In that split second, the dog weighs your command, which usually results in a treat or a pat on the head against the ancient, hardwired instinct to confront a potential predator approaching its territory.
And the treat isn't going to win.
Never. The dog is almost always going to choose the threat. It has nothing to do with how much the dog loves you or respects you. It's a biological priority override. Achieving off-leash reliability in open, unsecured spaces is genuinely difficult, bordering on impossible, even for the most well-trained Pyrenees.
So fences and gates aren't just there to act like a prison to keep the dog from running away. Our sources reframe them as active training tools. A secure fence actually allows the dog to fulfill its instinct to patrol its edges safely.
Which they love doing.
Yeah. Treating boundaries like waiting calmly at a latched gate or not door dashing when the pizza guy arrives as part of daily training is how you give this independent dog safe freedom.
And if that safe freedom includes other animals, like cats, other dogs, or livestock, those introductions have to be carefully managed. A lot of families want a Pyrenees specifically as a working guardian for backyard chickens or sheep, or just to hang out with the family cat.
Right, the classic farm dog image.
Exactly. And it can absolutely work, but instinct alone doesn't guarantee safe behavior from day one. Rough puppy play has to be stopped before it becomes an adult habit. And if they are being introduced to livestock, it requires supervised, experienced guidance to manage high-value resources like food and resting spots, so tension doesn't silently build up between the animals.
So you're doing all this right. You've got the leash skills, you manage the barking indoors, the fences are secure, they are neutral with guests, and just when you think you have everything under perfect control, we hit the plot twists.
The fun part.
Right, the roadblocks that could derail everything. First up, the teenage phase.
Adolescence, yeah. This breed matures very, very slowly compared to smaller dogs. And when they hit those teenage months, often between like 8 and 18 months, you will likely see a massive uptick in independence.
They just stop listening.
Essentially, yes. Their brain is literally restructuring. They suddenly start boundary testing. They develop highly selective hearing. The barking intensifies. And they might become suddenly suspicious of objects or people they used to be completely fine with.
It's the 100-pound teenager phase.
Yeah.
And so many owners hit this wall. They see this regression and they think, I've failed. All my training is gone. My dog is broken.
But they aren't.
Exactly. Our experts say, do not panic. And whatever you do, do not resort to harsher physical corrections out of frustration. This isn't a training failure, it's a biological developmental stage. You just have to return to the absolute fundamentals. Keep your leash and gait routines incredibly strict, be unwaveringly consistent, and reward the calm choices.
Just weather the developmental storm with consistency, their brain will eventually settle.
But what if this sudden shift in behavior isn't just a teenager acting out? Let's say you have a 5-year-old perfectly trained Pyrenees and suddenly they are growling when you try to brush them, or they refuse to go outside. I might just think my dog is being stubborn again.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, behavior is inextricably linked to health. This is a crucial point that applies to all dogs, but especially giant breeds. If your Great Pyrenees suddenly becomes highly reactive or unusually withdrawn, you need to pause and look at the physical mechanics of what's happening.
Because it might not be behavior at all.
Exactly. These behavioral shifts are often masquerading symptoms of an underlying physical issue.
How does that actually work mechanically? Why does a physical issue look like bad behavior?
Well, think about the mechanics of chronic pain. Giant breeds are prone to joint issues, like hip dysplasia. If a dog has a dull chronic ache in its hips, that pain actively depletes its cognitive bandwidth.
They're just exhausted from hurting.
Right, their nervous system is stressed. Because they are uncomfortable, their patience threshold for loud noises, for being touched, or for dealing with other dogs is drastically lowered. It looks to a human like stubbornness or sudden aggression, but it is actually self-preservation.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Or consider overheating, itchy skin allergies, or even early changes in their hearing or vision, which makes them startle easier. Before you ever assume that a sudden behavioral change in an adult dog is just a stubborn training issue, you really have to go to the vet and rule out physical causes.
Here's where it gets really interesting as we start to bring all these threads together. So what does this all mean for you, the listener, who is sharing your home with one of these magnificent dogs, or maybe thinking about getting one? Let's distill everything we've covered into an ultimate do's and don'ts list. What mechanically works?
Patience. Unwavering patience.
Yes. Reward-based methods that explain the why to the dog. Clear, predictable routines. Building a collaborative relationship founded on trust. And what absolutely fails, shouting, harsh physical corrections, endless repetitive military-style drills, and expecting robotic instant compliance from a free thinker.
Which tells us a lot about who the right owner for this breed really is. It takes an unusually prepared, emotionally regulated person. You cannot just look at a Great Pyrenees on Instagram, fall in love with that majestic, fluffy polar bear appearance, and bring it home on a whim.
You can't just want the aesthetic.
No, you have to genuinely want and deeply respect the fiercely independent guardian temperament that comes permanently attached to that fur. You do not succeed with this breed by defeating its independence. You succeed by giving that independence a safe, structured shape to exist within.
You're trying to guide their instincts, not break their spirit.
Precisely. It is a partnership.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as we wrap up today's deep dive. We've talked so much about how to manage the dog, but think about what the dog requires of us. Modern human society is utterly obsessed with micromanagement, total control, and getting instant results at the push of a button.
Oh, completely.
We expect our technology, our services, and often our pets to bend to our immediate will. But living with a Great Pyrenees forces a profound mirror up to the owner. You cannot micromanage this dog. You cannot force it into submission.
It just won't work.
To successfully live with this ancient, independent guardian, you as a human have to fundamentally unlearn your own desire for instant control. You have to learn how to collaborate, how to persuade, and how to respect the boundaries of another species. It forces us to ask, are we just training the dog? Or is the experience of living with a true, independent guardian actually training us to become better, more patient leaders?
That is a fascinating way to look at it.
Keep that in mind the next time your dog stares out at the horizon, making their own decisions. It just might change the way you see everything.